So if you go to like my Twitter and see like some of the earlier posts that I did, you'll see like I give video exact demos, try to make them as short and as like digestible as possible, and then show people what they can do with a tool like this. And I think it resonated with people because it's ChatGPT, which is something that they know and love, but it's with their own data. And yeah, so the timing was one of the biggest things. But I still think like something similar to what I did can still be done now. So you can probably look at some of the newest releases from OpenAI or just in the AI space in general, something like Sora. Try to like build something around that. Try to just take advantage of the hype as much as you can, but then also don't over rely on it because it's going to go away eventually.
Welcome to Season 2 of Building with AI, the show where we engage in conversations with world-class AI product builders and leaders. We help uncover tactical insights to help you build and scale better AI products. I'm your host, Haroon Chaudhry, and today we're joined by Yasser Elsaid, the founder of Chatbase, a platform that helps companies build custom chatbots for their website. In this episode, Yasser shares his journey from losing his dream job due to industry layoffs to building a $3 million ARR AI product. He discusses the importance of product differentiation as you grow, the role of experimentation in combating AI hallucinations, the need to scale AI products safely, and much more. But before we dig in, here's a quick word from our sponsor.
Today's episode is brought to you by Autoblocks, the AI optimization platform product teams use to create world-class AI experiences. So, you just launched V0 of your AI feature or product. What's next? Autoblocks unlocks an intuitive yet powerful optimization workflow that helps you continuously understand, improve, differentiate your AI-powered products. Understand how your users interact with your product by connecting user activity to what's happening under the hood of your application. Improve your product thoughtfully and iteratively. Integrate testing of your AI products into your CI workflow and run A/B tests to see what changes are driving great user outcomes. Differentiate your AI products with powerful fine-tuning workflow that lets you turn product usage data into training data. Get started with Autoblocks for free at autoblocks.ai. Now, back to the episode. Awesome. Well, Yasser, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So for those who aren't familiar with you or what you're working on at Chatbase, do you mind just giving a quick introduction and the story leading up to it?
Yeah, so Chatbase was one of the first RAG products I launched a year ago. And like when it first started, it was just like upload your document, upload a PDF, and then start chatting with it. But this was a year ago before everyone else started doing it. So it got a ton of traction. But now we pivoted more towards customer support, sales, chatbots for businesses.
Very cool. Okay. And now you've built it up to become one of the most successful single founder AI products in the world, which is pretty remarkable. I read a little bit about your story on Twitter where you described, I think you had an offer from big tech, which was reneged, just given all the layoffs that were happening. And then you decided to go down the entrepreneurial route and then build Chatbase, and the rest is history. So what was the initial motivation for starting Chatbase?
Yeah, I can tell the story about the big tech company. So I was doing an internship in Seattle at a cool tech company, and I was having fun. It was really nice, but that was at the peak of layoffs and the stocks going down. As soon as I joined, all of this started happening, and all of the return offers, usually they would give 70% of interns return offers. Even the ones that got offers, the offers were canceled. So there's me with big hopes of my new job after college, and now I'm graduating without a job. Throughout my university, I just had a few products that I was building. Some of them are still active, but none of them made any actual money. But I just took the opportunity that, okay, I don't have anything to do now. There's no job waiting for me. I'll actually give this a shot and that's how I actually like when I said this, I was building another product. It was called EssayPal. It was just for students to write essays, but that didn't go well because there was like a ton of other products doing the same thing. And after a few months, I started working on Chatbase, and that was like December of 2022.
That's a great story. And what do you think was the key differentiator between the project that didn't go so well and the project that went well?
Yeah, so the timing of Chatbase was perfect. The timing for EssayPal, which was the project that didn't go well, was not good because there were already like a ton of products doing the same thing. It was just like a one call like to OpenAI to just get the response, and that's it. And you just like create a nice interface around it. And I think if I like did actually put in some effort towards the other one, it would have like made some money or like had some success. But as soon as I saw like RAG, I knew like there is a product there because like RAG is such an obvious idea. Like you have ChatGPT, everyone is talking about it. It's very cool. But now how do I like make it useful for my use case, for my data? And then I saw like vector databases and the concept of RAG. It wasn't called RAG then. It's just like retrieve data and then give it to OpenAI. That's like what it was called. And I just saw like the potential and I saw what I can build with this. And I was seeing on Twitter, like many people are doing the AI application stuff. So I saw Peter Levers was building the avatar AI when I was in the middle of building Chatbase. I saw some people have success with their indie products. And I knew like the idea of Chatbase, if like someone is working on it probably, and I need to like be faster, try to like launch early so that I'm the first one to launch it and I can take advantage of the hype around it. Because if I'm the first person to introduce the concept of like, hey, if you give me a document, you can chat with it, I get all the wow factor and people know Chatbase. But then when it's like the like 20th product that does this, then it's not the same feeling.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. And so speed was of the essence and getting to market and really just unlocking this workflow. Do you think that over time that's changed as more and more competitors are entering the space? Do you think that the way that you've differentiated and continue to build up Chatbase as the go-to solution in your market, do you think the things that you differentiated on had changed over time, or was it always a matter of just product velocity and capitalizing on the initial momentum?
Yeah, so in the beginning, it was just like whoever moves faster is going to win, at least like not win, but get the initial boost, which can mean the difference between continuing or not. So yeah, in the beginning, first few months, I knew like someone else is going to work on this product because it's such an obvious idea. And I knew that I need to be the first person to do it. And actually, like I launched Chatbase. I did a lot of research to try to find any similar products. I couldn't find any, but I launched it a week after I saw another one, 2 weeks after I saw another one. And they didn't do it after Chatbase. I assumed they started building it way before. I was just glad that I actually launched Chatbase before some of the competition. So yeah, that was my main strategy in the beginning. But then as the market is getting saturated, the velocity goes down. It's not a new idea anymore. It's not a new concept. People don't get very excited when you say RAG anymore. I had to like try to find more sustainable ways to grow. So now I'm focusing more on SEO, on PPC. I have some help with people who are focused on marketing. And so now like the traffic is like steadily growing. And I'm still like trying to figure out how I'm going to make sure that it's not like around the hype only. There's like a steady inflow of people that are interested in the product.
Yeah, a big challenge there is the growth marketing and making sure that you're getting in front of eyeballs as much as possible. And on the other end, I imagine there's some differentiation when it comes to the product experience as well. Do you think that it's harder to maintain that sort of differentiation, or does it get easier over time as you build more of a critical mass of users and usage?
Yeah, 100%. It gets easier over time because when you start, there is no moat, there's nothing. It's just like a few lines of code that you did on a weekend and anyone else can do the same thing. As you put in more hours, as you hire more people, as you have like a ton of features, it just becomes like any other SaaS product. Like people always say, this is a ChatGPT wrapper. It's not a real business. You can make a few bucks out of it in the beginning, but usually like it's not going to work. but any startup start out as a wrapper of something. Stripe was like a wrapper around financial institutions. It made it easier to pay people. And I imagine like when they first started, it wasn't the Stripe that we see now. It was just like a small wrapper that they worked on in maybe like a few weeks. Yeah, I think it's okay to start as a wrapper because it's the only way to start is just like to add like some value on top of something else. And it's not okay to like stay as a wrapper, or like it's okay, but you're not going to succeed. As time goes on, you find your place in the market. You know how to differentiate between you and the other products. And now you have a loyal user base that love your product. You have a ton of features that you can show people that other people don't have. Everything is just like any other software. And that's going to be your moat. And that's how you differentiate between you and the competition.
So what are some of the features in Chatbase today that help differentiate you versus folks that are just now entering the space and they're building some sort of like a sample or simple chat on your data product?
Yeah, so the main product itself, you can build an MVP, something similar to Chatbase. It's not going to take a long time. But yeah, it's the features around it, everything else that differentiates Chatbase between other products. But now like the main one that I can point to is we have like advanced analytics. So you can actually see like who's using that chatbot, how many messages they sent, all of those things, which is very important to business owners. There is a lead generation engine. So when the chatbot thinks that a customer is like interested in the product or service, and you can like give it instructions on how to like collect leads and what to do with them. Yeah, that's one of the other things. Something else I'm very proud of is how accurate the answers are, because hallucination is one of the biggest problems of LLMs in general. And it's not perfect because some of the limitations come from the LLM itself, and I can't change the LLM or how it behaves. But you can do a few techniques to make sure that you're trying to reduce it as much as possible. Some of the technical stuff is like how to chunk the text, how to retrieve the text, stuff like that. And after like a lot of experimentation, it did get much better, but it's still not perfect. And it's very hard to make it perfect, as I said, because I don't have control over the LLMs. But I'm building now, and with the assumption that LLMs are going to become much more powerful. And I know that GPT-5, GPT-6, or even some of the open source models will become more powerful than they are now. And the hallucination problems or any of the other problems that these products are facing will start to like not become problems anymore as those LLMs become better.
So you said experimentation. That's an interesting term and something we hear from a lot of the folks that are on the podcast is when they're building with AI, they're experimenting quite a bit. And oftentimes it starts with identifying where is the AI not performing so well. Hallucinations being an example of that. And then iterating on their AI system until they're able to address some of those edge cases. And it's a very continuous process. I haven't seen an AI product that's just immune to hallucinations. What does the experimentation look like on your end? What is your workflow for making sure you, one, understand where the experiences are going awry, and then secondly, being able to make the necessary changes to improve the experience and address those specific failure modes?
What I do is I just look at the variables I can change, and then I start to like do a control experiment over every single piece of variable, and then try to optimize doing that. For example, the chunking size of the text, this is something you can change, you have control over. So I start changing that. The models you're using, the instructions you're giving it, all of that, and like some little tweaks make big differences. I think you had Logan on a previous episode, Logan from OpenAI, and he was saying that if you had a smiley face at the end of the like prompt, this would give you better results. Part of it is prompt engineering, part of it is other stuff on the technical side. And you just like keep experimenting. And by experimenting, I mean like you just do a request and then see like the result and see if it's good or not. And there's some frameworks around that, how to like measure if this is a good answer or not. But most of it, you still have to do some manual feedback or like manual processing of the results to be able to decide which one is good or which one is bad.
Yeah, and for folks that have heard the term evaluation, that's exactly what Yasser is referring to right there, is the process of either manually evaluating those outputs from the AI product or system, or you can do it scalably by setting up evaluators, which are essentially functions to help you understand the quality of a specific output. Are you using any evaluators for Chatbase, or are you primarily just doing it manually and reviewing the outputs and using that as a gut check?
Yeah, I've seen some interesting evaluators, but to be honest, it's either expensive or it's either doesn't work properly, because some of them you have to like call the LLM on the response to like check if it's a good response or not. And if you do that at a big scale, it doesn't become feasible. So right now we're doing it manually, but we're also like trying to find like something that is more scalable. And I think we're going to get there soon.
You mentioned that RAG is really at the core of what you do at Chatbase. Do you mind just explaining what RAG is to the audience?
Yeah, so RAG is an acronym for Retrieval Augmented Generation, which means you have a data or you have like some data source and you want to use that, you want to give it to the LLM to be able to like take the data from there and then answer questions. So the way it works is you gather all of your data from different data sources. So in Chatbase, you can have a data source from files, you can have websites, you can have Notion, you can have other sources. And then you add all of your sources in one place. And then what the RAG pipeline usually is, you chunk all of the sources. There's like multiple techniques for chunking, but the simplest one is you just like chunk after like a specific number of characters. So you say, like, I'm going to take this chunk, and then I'm going to take this chunk. And then now you have multiple chunks. And every chunk like has a meaning behind it or is talking about a specific thing. And then you do something called embedding on all of those chunks. And embedding is just turning the text into an array of numbers, which are called vectors. And those vectors represent the meaning in those texts, so the semantics behind it. And then you take that, you store it in a vector database. And now you have all of your sources vectorized, stored in a vector database. And now, once you want to ask a question, you do the same thing. You embed the question, so you have the semantic representation of the question. And then you go to the vector database and ask, what is the most similar chunk to that question? And the most similar chunk to the question will probably be something that talks about the same thing. And it will probably have the answer to that question. And you can get like multiple. You can get like, give me the top 3 chunks that talk about this, or the top 3 paragraphs. And then now you have a question, and now you have some data that talk about the same topic and might very high chance that it has the answer to the question. So the last step would be like to make a request to an LLM and say, given this information, can you answer this question? And then the LLM read the full prompt, and it should be able to answer it if the information is in the question.
Perfect. Well, yeah, thanks so much. That's maybe the best explanation of RAG that we've gotten. So yeah, appreciate the overview there. And you mentioned earlier that you do a lot of prompt engineering. So that's part of this whole experimentation refinement process. Where does the experimentation come in when you're making modifications to that RAG system to change things like chunk size and whatever else parameters you're using?
Yeah, so I just sit on my laptop. I just experiment with different, I have like a bunch of text, and then I try to change some of the parameters that I can change. And then I embed them, I do the full process, and then I try to ask some of the questions that I think people would be asking, like the most common ones I start with first. And then I also have to test stuff like, is this going to answer questions that are not in the source? Because some people, when they build like a custom GPT, they want to have it as an expert in like some specific domain, and they want it to refuse to answer questions about other topics. And it's very hard to do this because the model itself knows a bunch of things. If you go to a ChatGPT now without any custom instructions or data, you can ask it like, what is the speed of light? It will give you an answer because it's trained on that data. But if you have like a legal GPT and you want to ask it what is the speed of light, it should say like, this is not my specialty, go ask the speed of light GPT. So this is a part that you need to also be experimenting to make sure that It doesn't go out of context if this is like the goal of the GPT. And you also want to make sure that even if the question is somehow relevant to the source, but the actual answer itself is not in there, that the chatbot able to recognize that the answer is not in there, and I should say, I don't know. And this is like probably the hardest part to do, because if it's something like completely different, as I said, legal, and then what is the speed of light, physics, it can easily recognize that this is talking about legal stuff, and this is a question about something else. So I shouldn't be able to answer this. But if it's something like in a similar domain, or actually maybe the same domain, but the answer itself is not in the question, it's very hard to like solve the hallucination problem, because it assumes that it knows the answer, so it just makes up something. And that's one of the main things that I look for when I'm trying to evaluate the responses from the chatbots.
Is the chatbot even able to answer this question? I think a lot of folks have this misunderstanding that AI is able to answer any question, regardless of whether it has the appropriate context or not. But sometimes it just comes down to it just doesn't have enough context that is maybe domain specific or company specific, because it's not being fed in using techniques like RAG. So one of the challenges that I imagine you face is you have a bunch of customers that are creating chatbots for their own websites, and they might have different needs for their chatbots. They might have different context that is pertinent to their business. Maybe they use specific acronyms or terms that are only relevant to them. How do you solve for the quality piece when you're working with folks that are actually creating those chatbots, and you're more the provider of the infrastructure itself?
Yeah, so that's one of the biggest problems we're facing, because as Chatbase, we're trying to build something more general. So if you have a business about you're selling like shoes, or if you have like a legal firm, you have like very different use cases, very different chatbots people are building. And I'm trying to build something that caters to all of them. But if you try to cater to everyone, you're not going to be the perfect fit for all of them. So what we try to do is we try to like give the people building the chatbots the tools that they can use to actually like be able to optimize or change a few tweak like the responses that the chatbot give. For example, like they can go ahead and change the instructions that are given to the chatbots, and we just take the same instructions and then we send it to the LLM. And you can change the temperature, you can change the chunking. So all of that is how we try to handle that problem. But there comes another problem, which is like, this is a business person. They don't want to be like playing with temperatures of chatbots or try to like give instructions and add smiley faces at the end, because they don't know that people do that. So one of the things we're trying to do is to try to make it like what advice is generally applicable to everyone. It helps like almost everyone. And then we try to like add that. And then we also like give instructions and say, if this is something that is specific to you, you have to apply it. And for the bigger clients, we have someone to actually like do all that stuff for them. So someone who like has some experience with prompt engineering, with LLMs, with all of that RAG, everything we talked about, and they can like make it custom for them to be able to solve that problem.
On that note, I know you tweeted something recently about selling your first enterprise contract fairly recently, right? And so you're moving up market. You started off by creating this product that was anybody could self-serve sign up for. You had a product-led growth motion where assumably people would end up paying once they started using the product. I believe free. Was it a freemium model where people use it for free and then ended up paying?
When we launched, there was not even like a pricing page. It's just like everyone can chat with the chatbots or create their own chatbots. But yeah, now we have like a free plan. You just have like a few messages just to test the product out, and then you convert.
Got it. And so describe the process of moving up market to selling to enterprises. What has that looked like? Have you had to make foundational changes to your business in order to shape up for selling to those types of clients, or was it sort of a natural progression?
Yeah, so one of the biggest differences is some of the requirements that are common for more bigger clients, stuff like compliance. So we get a lot of like GDPR compliance requests, SOC 2 compliance. I think maybe in a week or two, we're going to like announce it on Chatbase. And then we're also in the process of doing SOC 2. So those are the two main differences that people are concerned about if they're looking into an enterprise contract. And the other thing is the uptime, how reliable is the service. They ask like a few questions that are not usually asked by smaller businesses. And those are the things that I'm trying to have an answer to. So if someone comes and says, are you SOC 2 compliant? I say yes. Someone says, what is your uptime? I say, hopefully 100%, stuff like that.
So there's a lot of the security and privacy considerations for those folks.
Exactly. Yeah.
But is the primary use case pretty much the same? They're just looking to add a chatbot to their website to enable users to be able to interact with their website collateral more easily?
Yeah. So what's interesting is some of the enterprise clients are actually agencies that offer Chatbase to their clients. So you would have someone who buys like 5,000 chatbots because they have 5,000 clients. They have Chatbase as an add-on as a part of the thing they provide to their clients. And their clients pay them and then they pay me. So like most of our enterprise clients are doing something similar, but some of them are just using it. They just have like a big website or a big demand for something like this, and they just use it for their own website.
Got it. So rewinding back to some of the technical considerations, you were discussing RAG, you were discussing prompt engineering. You've been an engineer for some time now. What were some of the biggest learnings and differences with programming with traditional software as opposed to programming AI-powered products?
I'd actually think it's surprisingly similar. The only difference is that you're using AI to power your product, but you're still making like API calls to the same endpoints. Everything is still the same. And that's why when I was talking about people say like this is just a ChatGPT wrapper, you could say the same thing about any other software. You just build a software and then it makes calls to other things. And then AI is just like what the value add for my product is, but it can be anything else. And the same like concepts still apply, like how you grow the product still applies, how you build the product still applies, the security concerns still apply. Maybe like the one thing that I can think of that is maybe different between AI products and normal software products or like non-AI software products is typically in AI products, you're like dealing with a ton of data. And with that comes a lot of security concerns, privacy concerns. If you're like building maybe like a calendar app or something, privacy is not one of the main things people ask about. But if you're building something that I tell you like, hey, can you give me all of your business data so I can make a chatbot with it? Then yeah, privacy and security become very big concerns. But the way you deal with them is not very different from other software tools that have the same concerns.
That makes sense. Yeah. And so the only differences, it seems like, are in the debugging and iteration process. Maybe that's a little bit more unique since you have this non-deterministic system in your code and you're not 100% sure how it's going to make decisions every single time. Is that the correct way to look at it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's another thing that's different too, because you can't expect the same answer to every question. And we also use AI in like other small like parts of Chatbase, and you have to make sure that you handle like all the different responses that you can get.
So you mentioned one of the things you hear a lot is how you're different than other folks in the space, but the results speak for themselves. You're above 3 million in ARR. You have almost 20,000 followers on Twitter who are following your journey of building in public. Describe what that growth trajectory looked like. So you described a story of building up Chatbase, but on the growth marketing side, you went from a handful of followers to growing your account quite substantially. I imagine that Twitter was a big growth channel for you as well, just given the amount of engagement that you get on that channel. How did you manage to develop that as such a fruitful channel for your Chatbase?
Yeah, so I think, as I said before, timing was perfect. My first ever post about Chatbase, which was like my third ever tweet on my account, I had like 13 followers, but that got over 1,000 likes. And the main reason is, one, like people get wowed by AI. Like if it's something very specific about AI and it's not very applicable to other products because it's just like magic, some of the things that you can do with AI. And I think I capitalized on that by being one of the first people to talk about it and then like showing people exactly what you can do with it. So if you go to like my Twitter and see like some of the earlier posts that I did, you'll see like I give video exact demos, try to make them as short and as like digestible as possible, and then show people what they can do with a tool like this. And I think it resonated with people because it's ChatGPT, which is something that they know and love, but it's with their own data. They can use it for like something very specific to them. And you can just see like a ton of business opportunities behind it, even for the people that are using Chatbase. So they use it to grow their businesses or maybe to offer it, as I said, to their clients. And yeah, so the timing was one of the biggest things. But I still think like something similar to what I did can still be done now, but it can't be the same product. So you can probably look at some of the newest releases from OpenAI or just in the AI space in general, something like Sora, try to like build something around that, try to just take advantage of the hype as much as you can, but then also don't over rely on it because it's going to go away eventually. And then you have to have like something more solid to still bring you traffic.
That's good advice there. So if I had to recap what you said there, first thing is that timing is very important. Second thing is connecting that technology to interesting use cases and creating that wow moment of you can use this technology in a very easy to use way and unlock very powerful workflows. And then number three is continually refining and improving so that you can create more of a gap between new entrants who might want to copy and yourself. Is that a fair recap?
Yeah, exactly. And number four, I would say is you have to make sure that your UX is perfect, because if you build something that people actually want, there's going to be a ton of competition. That's not a bad thing, but one of the big ways that you can differentiate yourself from the competition is by having like very good UX. Try to have a product that is very powerful, but just not intimidating. Like you don't want to see like a bunch of buttons, even though it can like actually do a lot of tasks, but try to make it as simple as possible. And that's what I look for, even for me, when I try to like buy something that to solve a problem I have. I look for something that doesn't look intimidating. It looks simple to use, but at the same time, it has all the powerful features I need. And I think this framework can be applied to any software, but I think it's especially important in AI because there's just a ton of competition. And this is like one of the biggest way you can differentiate yourself.
Very well said. What do you think are the biggest opportunities in the space right now? And also, what do you think are the biggest challenges?
I would say the biggest challenges is how much the space is changing. You just don't know what's going to happen next. Like people know the meme that OpenAI, every few months, it kills like all the startups that it created the few months before. But I think there's like a framework to have like something more defensible. So people always say like try to build in a specific niche. Don't try to make a general product, because if it's something so general, then it's going to be interesting to the big players. And in a few months, they're going to build the same thing. So I would advise people that are trying to build something in the space. In the beginning, yeah, try to make something that appeals to more people just to see like what sticks with people, what doesn't. But then once you find an ideal customer, once you find the people that actually engage with you, that call you on the phone, which happened to me a few times, and ask for like specific features, you know that this is the ideal customers you're shooting for, and then try to like optimize your platform towards them. And I think, yeah, that's a big way to be able to de-risk whatever you're building.
That makes sense. And what would you say are the biggest opportunities for folks that are starting to build in this space?
Yeah, I still think there's a lot of opportunity with chatbots for specific verticals. So like sales, chat, like this is some of the stuff that I'm building, like sales, customer support, legal stuff, maybe real estate, all of those like verticals. And some people are actually like doing this using Chatbase. So one of our biggest enterprise clients is just like doing Chatbase for a specific vertical, and they're using Chatbase to power their product. So I would say the chat stuff, there's still a huge opportunity there, but just try to be like don't like try to appeal to everyone, because as I said, it's very hard to like avoid competition that way. And also like the image stuff, the video stuff, there is a ton of opportunities there, but you have to like study it. You have to like know every new feature. You have to understand it. And then the ideas are just going to come. If you understand it, you'll just see it, because that's what I did when I started working on Chatbase. Before it, I knew OpenAI existed. I knew there's something called GPT-3. But then when I started when I joined the OpenAI Discord server, when I joined the subreddit for OpenAI, when I started to talk to people that are interested in the stuff, I discovered something called vector databases. I discovered something called RAG. And me discovering it this early was probably like the biggest advantage that I had in terms of building Chatbase.
How do you stay up to date on the developments in the space and what's going on? Sometimes it feels like drinking out of a fire hose.
Yeah, exactly. There's too much, but if you're actually serious about building something like this, it has to be like something that you do every day. Just like keep track of what everyone is talking about, follow like people on Twitter, follow people on Discord servers. Just try to be up to date with things that are happening. And then once you don't have to do this for like 3 years, you just like have to do it until you get like a good idea you think is going to work, and then start working on it. And then you'll probably also like find other people doing something similar. So you can like build something that is similar to what other people are building, but adding something extra on top of it to make it different.
What are you most excited about for the future of Chatbase?
Yeah, that's a good question. I believe there's like still a ton of opportunity for Chatbase to grow. The chatbot market is insanely big, and there's like a ton of winners in one market, which is not something you can say about like most other markets. Like you either win or lose, but in the chatbot space, there's like a lot of winners. So I can see Chatbase growing to be 10x in the next year, and that's what I'm shooting for, because we're also like trying to cater more towards enterprise clients. And once you do that well, hopefully like revenue increases much more significantly than with like smaller businesses.
So one of the things that I like to ask guests is, what is their hottest take when it comes to the AI space? So what is a contrarian view that you have that most people wouldn't agree with, but you would die on a hill for?
So I mentioned this. I'm not sure. Maybe it's not that unpopular, but as I said, like people that are building like small applications on top of AI products, I would say what you're building is exactly what you should be doing, because as I said, every software sorts as like a small feature on top of something else. And what you're doing now is exactly what you're doing, is exactly what you should be doing. And I think you should also try to assume that LLM is going to solve a lot of things. So just assume that GPT-5 is coming, GPT-7 is coming, GPT-8 is coming, and every single iteration is going to be much more advanced than the previous iteration, and they'll be able to like solve bigger and better problems, and start building something with that in mind. I think a lot of people like they just see like what the space, the state of the space in right now, and then they just assume that maybe like a problem that people are facing is not solvable with LLMs, but just assume that LLMs are going to become better, and with that assumption, start building. And then once they do become better, you already have a ton of like head start over everyone else, because you started building now instead of waiting until like those LLMs actually are good at solving that specific problem.
Awesome. Yasser, thank you so much for joining the show.
Thank you so much.